Order! Order! You are an incorrigible delinquent at times. Behave yourself, man!
The Football Association's inquiry into historic abuse in football has been told that the former England manager, Graham Taylor, was warned about the sexual abuse of young players when he managed Aston Villa in the 1980s. One victim told the BBC's Victoria Derbyshire programme that Graham Taylor advised him to sweep it under the carpet rather than go to the police. Jim Reid reports.
In the 1980s, Tony Bryan was a bright young defender who played for a number of professional clubs. As a boy, he says he was abused by this man, Ted Langford, who died in 2012. Langford was a scout for both Leicester City and Aston Villa.
I tried to do something about it. I tried to report it 30-odd years ago, but I wasn't listened to. And it happened to another two children.
Tony Bryan says he spoke to senior figures at Aston Villa about the abuse. When he was 18 or 19, he claims he had conversations with these two men, assistant manager Dave Richardson and then manager Graham Taylor. Last month, he told the FA's independent inquiry into abuse he felt Taylor discouraged him from taking the matter further.
And he just said to me, look, you're a young lad starting out in the game. He said, I know you've just made your debut. He said, could you really be doing all the obscenities from the terraces? So I just suggest you sweep it underneath the carpet.
It was a long time ago. Are you sure he said those words to you?
I'm exactly sure, yes.
How did you react?
I went into the kitchen when my mother was still doing the washing up, and she said, well, and I just told her. So told me to sweep it underneath the carpet, and I broke down in tears.
We must have someone. Former England manager Graham Taylor died of a heart attack in January. Dave Richardson said after finding out about the abuse from other boys, he spoke to Taylor and then chairman Doug Ellis and sacked the scout responsible. He strongly denies he or the club would have put off anyone from coming forward. Earlier this year, he said, I did what I felt was right at the time for the club and the boys who'd been abused. Other parents told me they did not want the matter reported to the police. Now, new documents uncovered by the BBC appear to show that Ted Langford was working at Aston Villa at least a year after Tony Bryan says he first raised concerns. A lawyer representing a second anonymous victim claims his client also tried to warn Graham Taylor and the club, but felt ignored.
He could have done more. He could have acted quicker. He could have listened to these concerns to enable him to stop him from abusing other children.
Mr Richardson said he does not think it's appropriate to comment on the latest information while the FA's inquiry is ongoing. Aston Villa says it takes welfare seriously and has policies in place to deal with any complaints. In 2007, Ted Langford was finally jailed for sexually abusing 4 young players in the 70s and 80s. The final number of victims is likely to be higher. Jim Reid, BBC News.
Yeah. The inquiry into sexual abuse in football.
Yes, this is ongoing. This is a story that The Guardian have very much been across, and there have been revelations that people who were boys during the 80s and were at Aston Villa and were sexually abused told Graham Taylor that they were being abused, and Graham Taylor told them not to tell anybody. He said, imagine the abuse you'd get from the stands if people knew this had happened to you. Graham Taylor, of course, is not alive to answer these accusations, but Villa is around. And what are Villa doing about it? They're a nice, big, rich football club.
But if the inquiry is still underway.
But I just find that horrific, and what an indictment that is, that Graham Taylor, whether he said it or not, the fact that it can be suggested with people believing it is itself suggestive that someone is abused, sexually abused, and the concern is that a group of guys on a football terrace will use that as an excuse to sing abusive songs about them or to abuse them. That feels very plausible to me. That would happen. I totally believe that would happen. I've been around football games a lot. You can imagine it happening. But that itself is a real indictment that abuse that could go on in a football area has to be covered up, not only because the football club wants to protect its reputation, but they're concerned about people making fun of the victims. It's a horrible indictment, I think.
Yep.